1.
Bam! 1.21 gigawatts of power blasting it. Sorry, you know what's going on, right? You know what today is, right?
It was awesome.
You know what today is, right?
Yeah, today is IFB day.
Right, but 1.21 gigawatts.
Yeah,
Today marks the 40th anniversary of the release of the original. You know what? That's right. Original. What movie was it?
Spinal Tap.
Oh, Back to the Future.
Back to the Future.
40 years ago today.
Okay.
Scary.
Well, I'm going to welcome everybody to Interfleet Broadcasting, and then we're going to get into a couple of things because
I'll try to dial back the gigawatts.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway, I'm New York Pete. I'm here with my best buddy, the Tipsy Toaster. Thanks for joining us on our news, pop culture, sci-fi entertainment channel. Full disclosure, Tipsy and I grew up watching all the great 70s and 80s TV movies and cartoons, comic books and the like. And, you know, we bring that unique spin to our little corner of the universe here on IFB. And everyone needs to know up front that we are very, very big Battlestar Galactica 1978 fans. And that is the catalyst for our show. We're in season 5. And very happy and proud of all the accomplishments and, you know, the team that we have, because it takes a village. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We have a really, really heavy BSG Battlestar Galactica night tonight. We have special guest is Jack Stauffer, Lieutenant Bojay. We have another 2 super Battlestar Galactica fans that have been involved in fandom for decades and have also been involved in the Stranded Warrior. So they're named actors. Unfortunately, you didn't get lines for them, but who knows in the future. But they were part of Stranded Warrior. We're very proud to have them with us. So Dave and Gary will come on afterwards, after we get to see and hear our very, very beloved Tiny Bean Tara and her little slice of the little corner of the universe. But Tipsy, you were talking about the return. What is it? What were you talking about? Talking about one of your favorite one. I don't know if it's a favorite movie, but you were talking about a particular movie, Back to the Future. I was thinking Spinal Tap, because that's coming up very, very soon. I think it's next weekend, if I'm not mistaken, is the anniversary for Spinal Tap. But I have a super fan. We have 2. We actually have 2 super fans for Back to the Future. One of them is, of course, our very own Mr. Chris Fian, but I have another one who basically grew up with it. His family's into it. He's asked to come on the show. So when we're ready to do Back on the Future, we can have 2
we definitely
really
be
cool
great.
guests.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right. Well, in the meantime, if we can bring everybody up and give the toast, because we always like to recognize the fans and the fandom. So
look at that. That's just full of people tonight. Yeah, hang on. Let me get the audio up and running here. We got that audio, and we got that audio, and we got that audio, and we got that audio. Oops,
awesome.
Wrong audio. And we got that audio, and we got that audio. I think we're all on.
All right. Well, guys, thank you for joining us. You guys that are on following us live, and then everybody that watches us later on, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you. Here at IFB, we have our own motto, Tipsy.
So we thank you for being here, because it is the fans that fuel the fandom and the fans that fuel the fleet. So here's to you.
Cheers. Excellent. Well, now that we got that tonight out of the way, wow. I spy with my little eye.
Oh boy, here we go.
Yep, Chuck and James and Erica and Kim and Lola, of course, and Chris Laskowski from Down Under, Mediocre Modeler. Yes, Kim, You guys rock. I know that there's a bunch of you over on YouTube as well. So thank you for tuning in. Please, post something up, a hello, a chat. Don't forget to hit the likes as well because that helps with the algorithm. So thank you for
Especially
joining
since
us.
most of us are going over to YouTube now. We're still Facebook people, but
Yes,
if you want to watch any of our old shows,
you gotta go. You gotta
hike
go
on
over
over
to
there to
YouTube,
YouTube.
and we got them all. There's
Fire
I
up
think
your Mr.
another
Fusion
five
and
more.
of our old shows. You gotta go. Hike on over there to YouTube, and we got.
That's it.
Oh, we got a little echo going on there.
Got a little bit.
I gotta take
Somebody's got to take care of that. All right. Well, yeah. So YouTube, guys, that's where the archive is. We have about 5 more that we have to upload from season 1, and then I think we'll have a complete library over on YouTube. So we, hat tip to YouTube for taking care of us. Battlestar Bulletin Board, thank you for joining. Mina is on. So if Tipsy, if you're ready,
Ready for
maybe
what?
we can have ready for Tiny Bean.
Ah, we're always ready for Tiny Bean. Who is not ready for Tiny Bean?
Yes.
I did misplace her soundtrack, Doug. I don't have to get that up. I get to find that out again.
You got it. Yeah, you better.
But anyways, we have Tiny Bean is ready to go. Give me 1 second. We will.
Cool,
pop
Mike. Thanks
Tiny
for
on.
joining us, Michael Morlock. Thanks. Appreciate you.
Give
Appreciate you
me
and everybody
1
else.
second,
Thank
Tiny
you.
Bean.
There
is yours, and
there we go.
Hang on.
Okay,
Make
it's
sure
gonna be
I've got
basically all you, Tiny Bean.
All right, fantastic. Well, hello, IFB. Great to be here. Happy almost 4th of July holiday weekend here in the States. Hope you're all planning to get out there and soak up some sun and good times. I've got lots of fun news and fun stuff in the corner for you all this week, so let's dive in. First up, some super exciting news on the Henry Cavill Highlander reboot we've been watching for. They have announced that the key role of Ramirez, played by Sean Connery in the original, will be played by none other than Russell Crowe.
Yes.
How cool is that, right? I mean, I'm so excited. Apparently, he's also been spotted sporting a huge weight loss and looking very in shape. And well,
Awesome.
now we know why. So, and they have cast actress Marissa Abela on board as well. Now, she starred in the Amy Winehouse biopic a few years back. Very talented. They are also talking that there will be significant changes to the original storyline. So, stay tuned on that, guys.
Is that Kurgan in the middle, though? Who's that?
It's Cavill in the middle, Connery
okay.
on the other side.
Wow, I don't recognize Cavill.
I know, right?
Quite the transformation there.
Yeah, but this is going to be really cool, guys. I am so excited for this. Anyway, next up, hold on your hats, guys. There is news hitting about a spin-off to one of the greatest classic comedy films of all time, and one of my all-time favorites. I am talking, of course, about Mel Brooks' classic Young Frankenstein.
Woohoo!
Absolutely the best in the world. Oh, it's my favorite. Like, I could, probably recite the film start to finish. Well, Mel Brooks himself is producing a project that they are calling Very Young Frankenstein, a prequel TV series from the creators of What We Do in the Shadows. No other details yet, but wow. I mean, this had better be good. I mean, who could possibly play Gene Wilder? I mean, if they could only get his young look-alike Jeremy Allen White, now, then maybe he'll have something. More on him later, though. A lot more. Now, next up, here is one that flew right under my radar. Check out the show Nautilus on AMC. Full disclosure, I have not had a chance to start it yet, but it has now risen to the top of my must-see binge list. It is a swashbuckling action-adventure series that acts as a prequel to Jules Verne's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, delving into the earlier adventures of Captain Nemo, played here by Star Trek actor Shazad Latif, and it boasts what is described as a charming cast and really cool effects. This sounds like a fun, adventurous, and family-friendly good time for the holiday weekend. It's getting great reviews, so I am going to check it out, and I hope you do too. Nautilus is on the AMC channel. Now, 70s and 80s nostalgia is a big part of what we celebrate here on IFB, and I just can't wait to tell you about two exciting projects coming our way about a couple of musical icons from that era. Let's start first with a documentary on one of my favorites, Billy Joel. I mean, hey, I'm from New York. It's called And So It Goes, and it will hit HBO on July 18th. A two-part show. It features extensive interviews with Billy and others and features never before seen live footage, background footage, and stories that Billy has never shared with the public before. So, really looking forward to this. I think we all can remember a time when Billy dominated our radios and our childhoods. So, join me in checking this one out. The next musical feature is not a documentary, but a film called Deliver Me From Nowhere, and it's about Bruce Springsteen. Now, this is not a traditional biopic. It is framed around the creation of Bruce's 1982 album, Nebraska, that he recorded on a 4-track recorder in his bedroom. Bruce and his manager, John Landau, are said to be heavily involved in this production, and they gave an enthusiastic thumbs up to the casting of Jeremy Allen White as Bruce. And boy, is that casting inspired. I mean, I never would have seen that one coming, but check out the trailer. It's really wonderful. Jeremy is doing a lot of his own singing and playing, which is always a good sign. The cast also includes Jeremy Strong as John Landau, Stephen Graham as Bruce's dad, and dead ringer Johnny Cannizzaro as Stephen Van Zandt. So, cannot wait to see this, guys. Deliver Me From Nowhere will hit theaters in October and is already hearing the sound of Oscar buzz. So, in reviews this week, I'd like to talk about what I consider the best show on TV. A bold statement, yes, but I feel it is an accurate one. Now, we've talked about this one through the years, and if you haven't yet, I implore you to check out The Bear. Season 4 just dropped, and I think it's the best season yet. The Bear is the story of Chef Carmy from Chicago on his way to becoming a fine dining legend when his brother back home dies and leaves him the family sandwich shop to take over. Carmy turns around and turns it into one of the best fine dining establishments in town. But what makes this show so special? Well, there's a lot of things. The writing just flat out rings true in every exchange. It doesn't even feel like scripted dialogue sometimes. The characters are all three-dimensional, and they all get fully fleshed out backstories that really goes a long way in making you care about each and every one of them. They even go so far as to do entire episodes on the different characters. Each character has growth and believable character arcs. The cast is superb, and though Jeremy Allen White is the star, it is 100% ensemble all the way. They also take the time to give the restaurant and all that goes into it, both front and back of house, painstakingly perfect details that make anyone who has ever worked in the industry laugh out loud often. And can we talk about the music? I mean, the soundtrack alone is worth an Emmy. I downloaded the entire playlist on Spotify. The music is almost an additional character, an added layer of storytelling. But it is also more than a show about a restaurant. It is a show about a complex Italian-American family, and it does not shy away from the bumps and realities of all families. Where this show shines the most is in the double-sized 60-minute ensemble special episodes. Back in season 2, it was about Christmas Eve and the Feast of the Seven Fishes. And I know I talked about it back when it came out. One of the best episodes of television I have ever seen. Go back and check that one out if you haven't yet. It plays as a standalone. In this season, it's episode 7, and it's called Bears. It is a masterpiece of layered filmmaking at its best on every level. If you watch nothing else this year, watch this episode. IMDb rates it a staggering 9.5 stars. The family and friends are assembled for the wedding of Cousin Richie's ex-wife and the mother of his little girl. Cousin Richie is also my favorite character, played by the stupendous Eben Moss Baccarat. And the episode opens with Richie and Chef Sydney, played by the outstanding young actress Ayo Edebiri, outside the hall as Richie predictably has a meltdown. This short scene alone is a masterclass in acting. Watching Richie go through the full gamut of emotions before composing himself for the party was just stunning. The entire family is here in full force, including the extended characters, bringing in the likes of Bob Odenkirk, Sarah Paulson, John Mulaney, Brie Larson, Oliver Platt, Josh Hartnett, and oh yeah, that is Jamie Lee Curtis as the estranged mom. There is so much going on here, so many personalities in the room, so many small scenes that in any other show would have been the main storyline, but here it's just all part of the mix. There is an incredible moment where Richie has to give the guy marrying his ex-wife, played beautifully by Josh Hartnett, by the way, a pep talk and trying to explain to him how to handle his daughter and make her like him. The daughter in question is hiding under a table, afraid to dance in front of people. One by one, the family members all wind up under the table with her. All petty squabbles and other issues go right out the window. They go around the circle, all saying something that scares them. It's beautifully done. It's incredibly effective. Legitimately a masterwork of filmmaking, worth every minute, and I honestly can't wait to watch it again. Not to take away from the rest of the season, which is also great. There is a surprise cliffhanger of an ending that I won't give away. They have been renewed for a fifth season that they are saying may be the last, so they can tie up all the storylines and work around the actors who have all, rightfully so, become much sought after in Hollywood. I mean, we've watched Jeremy Allen White grow up as Lip from Shameless, and I'm so excited to see him continue into a real A-list star. Eben Moss Baccarat will be playing Ben Grimm, the Thing, in the new Fantastic Four reboot. Ooh. And Lionel Boyce from the cast will be in Project Hail Mary that we talked about here a few weeks back with Ryan Gosling. So, check out The Bear. It's on FX and Hulu. Totally worth it. Even if you just watched that special episode, Bears, I mentioned, trust me, it stands alone. I guarantee you will be hooked. And that is all for the corner tonight. So back to you, Pete.
I don't get to talk to Tara much because she's only on every so once in a while. 3 ones I want to mention to you. Duster.
Ooh.
Right? The Waterfront.
Yep. Yes.
And the new series, the new season of Mindhunter.
Oh, yes. That is on my list. I have not dived into
the new series of Mindhunter hasn't come out yet, but...
okay, because I'm
if you like Tulsa King, got to watch The Waterfront.
Which also, by the way, Tipsy, I'm glad you're here because they next season of Tulsa King, and they have already said they are renewing for an additional season. So that just hit. I was like, whoa, amazing.
Duster is fantastic.
Yeah, isn't it a hoot? It really is.
The cinematography in that, plus just the attention to detail of the 70s. All of the cars. There was one scene I was watching last night. It's just like an entire street full of cars and buildings and everything else, and it was all 70s. There was no oops. Look, there's an 80. Nothing. It was fantastic.
Yeah, really spot on detail work. I'm so all about that. When I see shows like that, it makes me so happy.
Yeah, because the Waterfront has got Holt McCauley. He's the one from
Home Alone.
He's the one from Mindhunter.
Yes.
The older individual from Mindhunter. And he's a fantastic actor. I don't think I've seen him in much. Yeah. But that's the first time I've seen him in something that really stood out. I mean, I think he used a couple different ones, but he's
Mhm.
good. That's yeah. It,
Yeah.
it's it is Tulsa King with fish,
Ooh,
with
that's
with
great.
fishing and drugs. Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
Uh,
the 70s.
Ah, this well that one
Tiny
that's
Bean
Duster. The waterfront's
Foundation.
up to date. So
Okay. Great.
Foundation is coming back,
Yes.
and they
Yes.
just got another season. I think they're fine. Maybe their final season renewed, so they're coming
Mhm.
back, and then they got another season. So I just saw that announced today.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to that because I kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be really good. Yeah, they're saying this next season is gonna be the best one, so not surprised.
Ooh.
Looking forward.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, as usual. Just outstanding.
Thank you.
Any footnotes on your day job? I know that you're always working. There's some kind of a presentation or production or something that you're doing up in your neck of the woods. Is there anything that you want to share?
Thanks, Pete. Yeah, I mean we're starting our summer season here. I am the education director of my art center, and that means it's summer camp season. So we've got over 100 little local kids of all ages coming for art classes and dance classes and music classes, and it's really exciting. It's going to be a fun summer, so looking forward to it. I'll be busy, but it's going to be fun.
Very, very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much. We look
yep.
forward to having you back again, and there'll be more
Yep.
developments. But before you go,
Mhm.
you should know that we have a couple of projects. So besides the Stranded Warrior, we've also worked on the Tower Protocol Resurrection, and we are finalists in the still image competition for 2025. We submitted our trailer into competition at Shockfest. And
Nice.
so, Fest Film Festival, it actually is made up of a bunch of working parts. And so they have screenings and things and events throughout the United States. So at the last one they did in California, they announced us as finalists in the still competition. And so tomorrow we'll find out how we ultimately did. So from all of the trailers and films that were submitted to them, they asked for us to then submit both your movie poster and a still image from the films that we obviously had submitted. And so we did. And so we're a finalist in that. So we've gotten our first
Cool.
laurels for the Tower Protocol Resurrection, which you were a part of. You have a character with lines, and so you're in. And so, and of course, Tipsy edited and is a producer on it. And so I wanted to just announce that tonight, and then we'll find out. I'll post, where we stand. Who knows? Maybe we'll do even better. And that's just for a still image from the Tower Protocol. So that's not the trailer. That's not whatever. So anyway, thank you for everything you
Wow.
do, Tiny Bean.
Thank you, Pete. Let me tell you, that's the set that we worked on for Tower Protocol Resurrection was so good. And the scene that I imagine is in the picture we're talking about is so
Yeah,
Oh
good.
yeah.
that's exactly that's the
So,
one. Yep,
yeah.
it's the
Okay.
altar, and yeah, that's the
Oh,
one. So
creepy awesome. I love
yeah, yeah.
it.
So it's well deserved. So thank you
Yeah,
to everybody that participated, and I'll keep you posted. But thank you. So
fantastic.
here's to
Thank you,
you,
Tara.
Tiny Bean.
Oh,
Keep
thank
up
you,
the good
my
work.
friends. Fans, feel
Mm.
the fleet.
Fans feel
I'll
the
be
fleet.
watching. Enjoy.
Excellent. Thank you. So, thank you to everybody that's on with us. Erica, who will be coming on next show, and she is going to be, her segment is all about conventions, what's going on in her neck of the woods, and then throughout, just like all the cons, and then she's going to highlight who and what's there, who we might be interested in, all that good stuff. So that's going to be her news segment here on IFB, and we're looking forward to that. So Erica, thanks for tuning in and thanks for being a part of the team. James McCoy and of course Commander Kane, Paul Rotter himself is on. He's always on. Thank you so much for joining. But we are going to now formally bring on our two of our Battlestar Galactica super fans, Gary and Dave, who participated in the Stranded Warrior. Consider them part of the family. Thank you so much for coming on the show, guys. You guys both went to Comic Palooza.
Sorry.
And
one Pete's enough. We don't need two.
Yeah, we don't need two. I guess. But thanks for coming on, guys. I really appreciate you and everything that you do, not only for the fandom, but supporting us and supporting Battlestar amongst all of our hobbies. But how's it going?
Oops, hang on. There we go.
Absolutely, Gary.
Yeah, it's going great. Thank you for having us on the show, and thank you for everything you guys do at IFB.
Absolutely. So you guys went to, I mean, look, besides the fact that anybody that's watching this now can see behind you that you have an array of, a vast collection of Battlestar Galactica items. We're talking classic. And you guys also do a lot of the cosplay that goes with Battlestar Galactica. You also do Star Wars, but since we're focused on Galactica, and we've met you at other shows, including Awesome Con, and I don't know, Gary, you and we met at Chiller Expo. We were not representing, but we caught up there, and we did talk about our hobbies and things. Dave, we've had extensive conversations on and off of instant messenger and texting and the like. So you guys went to Comic Palooza just about a week ago, and it was the 25th anniversary of the BFC, Battlestar Fan Club. It's the oldest standing Battlestar Galactica related fan club, and they were there, right? It was the 25th anniversary, and there were a bunch of stars, and you guys, man, you're spot on. You're the equivalent of the 501 for Battlestar Galactica, because these are screen accurate costumes, and I want you guys to tell us all about it.
Okay. Just a quick footnote on Tiny Bean's presentation. I did binge Tulsa King 2 seasons straight, like in a week. Mainly because I'm friends with 2 of the people from the art department, so I felt like I owed it to them.
Cool.
So that's pretty cool. So I've enjoyed it. It's kind of like Cobra Kai-ish in the fact that the main character is still living 30 years in the past. So, but yeah, that was great. So Gary and I, during COVID, we had done all the Han and Luke costumes, and we were at Awesome Con. I think it was Gary, like 4 years ago or 3 years ago?
4 years
COVID.
ago.
Yeah, and CMOD, the Colonial Ministry of Defense, had a booth there, and I was like, Gary, this is on our to-do list, right? And he was like, yeah. So we went over there and started talking to them, and they sucked us in. So we spent the end of COVID putting together our costumes and really diving in pretty deep. So, and then we discovered IFB, and then the fan film, and everything just kind of fell into place, and now we've dived in pretty deep. So Gary, any comments on that?
I don't know. I think you kind of laid that out pretty well. We like to be, do these costumes just because we enjoy just the fandom of it, just being kids and trying to make it as real as possible, so we can give that back to anybody who sees us in costume and kind of get that enjoyment back, what they were when they were a kid, or a parent maybe at that point. But so when we dived into the Battlestar Galactica, it was both on our to-do list, and you know, Dave and I do like I said, Han and Luke. So then we ended up saying, hey, well, Starbuck and Apollo, or who knows, maybe we'll do um, some chips. We can do Ponch and John. Who knows
Oh
what,
yeah,
what we'll come up with. But anything that we enjoy together that we both enjoyed watching when we were kids. So we did 100% jump in with the costumes, dived in, looked at everything, tried to find on different boards that had accurate products. What did they use on set versus what we could had, what we couldn't get that we had to get some modifications are. So went from the real boots to the real watches to replicas of the helmets, the beautiful jackets that we could get, and met a lot of people through all of this, like you guys, that just sort of had that same passion, and you guys took us a step further into a fan film, which was like blown away by the experience of it and the passion of it, the writing, the visuals, the directing, the producing of it, behind the scenes stuff that has always been fun to be a part of to see happen. So yeah, I mean, it was so we enjoy doing what we do, and we enjoy just giving back to anybody who just grew up as a kid watching it. And I have to do say is that if you watch it when you're a kid, it's much better now when you're older, because you kind of understand exactly what was happening in the show.
Yeah.
Little before its time, I think. So, but
Yeah.
we'll go right to Comic Palooza. So why don't you start out with that?
So we saw that Comic Palooza was happening, and it was the 25th anniversary of the fan club. So we're anxiously anticipating, what could be, and we had almost given up because there was not a lot of information out on it. But then all of a sudden, Gary ran into the vice president, Steve Elliott at Chiller, I think, and said, nope, there's some things happening. So we recommitted ourselves to it. And so despite all the travel woes, we all got there, and we met, one of the members online right here, Commander Kane Paul Rotter was. we, met, we met him in the lobby, pretty much first thing. So it was great meeting him.
Absolutely.
And later on, we met another great person that's on this call, Amina. So who took a lot of great photos of the whole weekend. So some of the photos you see might have been either her or her husband taking the picture. We're not sure because they all just kind of piled together.
Yeah.
But yeah, the picture you're looking at, that's Raider 1. So that's Eugene. So he's going as gosh, I'm drawing a blank now. Anyway, Moltar. And he built the Raider 1, which I believe is 3rd scale. So it has fully automated opening and closing of the cockpit, and you can drive it around. Of course, we didn't in the convention hall, but we've seen.
Well, what fun is that? You got to run over some colonials. So,
Tipsy, I think you need one of those. So
I do. I got to have one of those so I can run over some humans around here.
Yeah,
Cool
you got
thing
to get it.
Cool thing is,
I don't think DC is going to let me on the highway with that one.
Cool thing about that too is that he has a lot of autographs on there from various celebrities he met from Battlestar Galactica. So that's kind of really cool. He's got a good Richard Hatch story that goes along with it as well. And he's got a lot of intricacies inside of all the switches and levers and things like that. A lot of fun things from other movies like Spaceballs, when you kind of you get a little license plate on the back.
some kid was in there getting his picture taken and set off the theft alarm, so that was kind of funny.
Which was actually a Star Trek alert. So,
but there's a great on the Battlestar Galactica fan club 25th year anniversary. On their or their Facebook page, there's video of Lorette signing her autograph to it. The cockpit is full of autographs from anybody they could get. So.
Yeah.
And I didn't witness it, but I'm sure Sarah Rush was there, so I didn't witness her sign it, but I'm sure she did as well.
Yep.
So from the original cast, both Sarah Rush, who played Rigel, and Loretta Spang, who played Cassiopeia, were both there. Their autograph tape were at our actual fan club table. And I believe Mina was one of the handlers for one of them or something. I'm not sure. But the fact that they were at the table, we had a lot of interaction with them. So they were had a lot of good stories to tell. That picture there, I think she signed in mine. I'm not sure. But if you go to Loretta's official Facebook fan page, the two pictures of her at the booth, I took those with her camera. So I don't know, there was something cool about holding her camera. I don't know why, but so anyways, we got a lot of pictures with them. We we crashed the Star Treks. They had a great Star Trek experience where they had a bunch of stations. You'd go through a maze and it would develop through the time of Star Trek as you went through. So Gary, you want to add anything on that?
Yeah, I mean they had the blasters, they had or phasers rather. Sorry, gotta give sure my movies right here.
Oh my gosh, the fans are gonna hunt you down now.
They had costumes, and then they would give you actually shirts to wear, your red, blue, or yellow shirts as you got around to the Enterprise deck there. So obviously we didn't take on those shirts; we decided to do it our own. Also our Galactica crossover, and they just loved that. So yeah, it was a great experience. Even a transporter they had there too, which was that's where you kind of start out, and we actually did that with Commander Kane. So that was he actually kind of put himself in. I think he beamed in the same time we were beaming out. So it was a really cool shot that salute to Commander Kane for that. But yeah, it was a great experience. We also had there was a Jurassic Park experience that was really great. A full size T-Rex, automated, behind several Jeeps that were there, and there were longer Jeeps, SUVs, with lots of props, even the old shaving cream with the little canisters of all the different.
Oh yeah.
In it. And the banner that's ripped open from the T-Rex he had in his mouth, and he's moving his head and his tail's wagging, and it was just so cool. I mean, it was just they really brought you in. And next to that was Ghostbusters, which had the huge size blown up Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, which was kind of cool, and then all of their equipment for Ghostbusters. So, and then the Star Wars table, of course, that they actually had a nice little setup with different experiences with Hoth and
we have to mention Commander Kane in the picture right now. So
oh yeah, there he is.
There's Paul Rodder right there in his glory.
The man, the legend, and going to that, since we're on that subject, Paul was the first time we got to meet Paul. We've seen him online from actually IFB.
That's cool.
Excellent.
And what a gentleman! Really good guy. I mean, you could tell he's a total fan. He looks the part as Commander Kane, and he was just such a compliment to be around when we were going around and in our outfits, and he just was just a great person to meet and be with.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
we've
had
had
with
the
him
privilege.
at Dragon Con, and
Yep.
and it's a great guy. He's fun. It's always fun with the fans. It's always great to have more interaction with people who are like-minded, or ask the questions, or where did you get that, or where did you do that, And then of course, we had dinner and everything else that usually off during Dragon Con, and it was like so many great conversations in regards to, yeah, we're geeks. That's all there was to it. I mean,
Oh yeah. So listen, we have Eric Engler, who is very dear to us here on IFB. Eric, thank you for joining us live. And then Stefan Dorian, who is with us as well. Thank you for joining us. I know that it's always fun when we get to share. Battlestar Galactica Fan Club is representing here on IFB on our live show. So thank you for joining us, and congratulations on your 25th anniversary. Hopefully it'll be more than and continue on for another 25 at least. So it's all about the fandom, guys. It's all about us. If it's not about us, then
somehow they messed up the box there.
Yeah, that should be a BSG card
That box,
right?
That box is just not matching. I don't.
Those are great, man.
It's like the Rocket Fire and Boba Fett, It's sort of rare,
Let me do a shout out to Stefan, because he's the one who made like our tans and everything. And just so you know, Stefan, there's probably more business coming your way because everybody complimented our costumes. And just so you know, I had both Sarah Rush and Loretta Spang. They felt my felt of my tans and said, "Yeah, that's the right material."
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
So,
So
so
we
Stefan's the guy.
Stefan needs to come on IFB so we can talk about his skills, man. I mean,
Oh,
you
mad
this
skills.
is oh yeah. So look at Dave's like all, getting it on with some of the celebrities. Rob Baum, unofficial fact checkers here with us as well. Thanks for tuning in as well, Rob. Appreciate you and everybody out there. There is a comment. There is a
Wait a
request.
minute. Is this Carolyn?
Oh boy, that sure
Uh,
looks like it.
there's a we'll talk about it after you're done with that, Pete. But there's a something behind that shot that's a cool story. So, but go
Okay,
ahead, continue what
I just wanted to quickly add that Kim Harm says Gary and Dave come to Dragon Con,
Mm-hmm.
so they're asking for you guys to come down. I don't know if that's
That's
possible.
the BSG
but,
party. I'll tell you that right now.
It's on the to-do list. Just put
it's
that.
on the to-do list. There you go. There you go.
We'll go next year when we do the film.
It's a possibility.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
they
That
give
way
us
we
a
have the
panel
film
again.
and everything. Maybe
Yeah.
we'll actually
We'll-
we can talk Dragon Con into giving us a table.
Yeah. If
That would be
it's happened
great.
before. We did it when we debuted the trailer to the Stranded Warrior. So if we can make it happen, we will definitely go. I know that we're working angles and with there might be some convention next year that we might be able to attend. Everything is still not the dotted lines haven't been signed, but right now looks good. We'll have co-stars. If it happens, we'll have co-stars from the Stranded Warrior. We will be there. We're gonna have a big presence. Unfortunately, I don't know you guys, Gary, Dave. We have the MiniCon that's happening, and that's coming up July 19th out in Long Island, and we will be there. It's a charity con, 501 based, but we go to represent, and we always have a good time. So obviously you are invited as people that are a presence when you go to conventions. But let's circle back to that story, Gary. What do you have for us? You have a story on that elevator picture.
Yeah, so we'll make that one quick, and I'm gonna work with Dave on this one. So both the time and I got in this elevator because it's in our hotel room, going down. Not in our room, but we didn't have our personal elevator. But
Like, wow, you got a hell of a room there, buddy.
yeah, when we go big, we go big. No. But we both got in the elevator and we looked around. We looked at the color combination of this thing, which is gold and the browns and things like that. Like, boy, this looks really familiar. And both Dave and I looked at each other with a shocked face, and we both said at the same time, "What was it, Dave?"
Don't go to the basement.
So for all those who don't know what that is, I'm sure you all do if you're on this live podcast, is the Ovians they're going down to the basement in the
It
movie.
does look like Carolyn, the Carolyn elevator. It just needs
Yeah.
those triangular doors or the diamond-looking doors.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I don't know how much
So
time we have left, but I do want to make sure we cover the fact that Miss Leah Carnes and Luciana Caro. Leah Carnes played Racetrack, Lieutenant Margaret Racetrack Edmondson in the Reimagined series, and Luciana Caro played Luann Cat Katrine in the Reimagined series.
Mhm.
And the two of them, there's a banquet for the 25th anniversary. And thanks again to the fan club because it was a nice, well catered dinner, and we were treated to a great dinner.
Oh, cool.
So Kat and Racetrack sat at the table with Gary, myself, and Mr. Rodder for dinner. So we got to get a little personal with them and talk about things. So we learned some interesting things. So that was great. And then Eric Chu, he was
Yep.
one of the concept designers for the Reimagined
Silence.
series.
Yeah, we actually had him on.
We had him on,
We had him
yeah.
on one time.
Great guy.
He was a great guy, and he's working on. They did a special poster for the 25th anniversary, so he's working on sending us a copy of that. So
oh,
cool.
very cool.
Yeah, beautiful. You get to see it. Yeah, it's great work.
So, Stefan mentioned my dream is that one day a fan film will be produced with my uniforms. Well, some of your work was in the Stranded Warrior
Already there.
because
Your dream is already there.
Lieutenant Aquila and Lieutenant Vega both Gary and Dave were both in, and I think some of your other work may have been in the Stranded Warrior.
Yep.
And guys, you probably haven't heard this, so I'm gonna let you know now. Don't be surprised when your characters end up in fan fiction, because that's on the horizon. So Dave, your character was named Lieutenant Aquila, and Gary, Lieutenant Vega. So look for it. We'll obviously announce it when it comes out, but your characters from the Stranded Warrior are going to end up in fan fiction.
Wow.
We're
That's awesome.
canon. We're
You're
canon.
So that's happening. I thought you guys get a kick out of it, and everybody else that's out there. Really appreciate both of you taking the time out to come and join us here on IFB and sharing all the coolness that went down and your pictures. We look forward to seeing you in person at the next convention that we end up all either purposely or not representing, hopefully, Battlestar Galactica and just the fandom in general. So here's to you guys.
Yeah,
Dave, Gary, thank you very much.
Keep the faith and
Absolutely.
fans
And
fuel the fleet.
fans fuel the fleet.
Yeah. Hey, one clarification. I do not cosplay in that uniform. That is production. These two costumes on the back wall are production.
Yeah. I wouldn't want you cosplaying in the one on your right. I believe that would be that's a visual we all don't need, actually. So
And you'll be going solo if you do.
Yes, Dave, thanks for answering, because that did come up in the chat. Somebody wanted to know if that was your cosplay or not. Those are screen views.
No.
That's in your collection from the actual show.
Yeah.
And just to sum this up before the both of you leave, the fandom. And they always say that the world is smaller than you think. The fandom and everything else is it's just kind of insane that when Gary and I got a chance to actually talk for a little while, we realized that we have a connection to the original Tower Protocol that was released in 2004. That you'd actually seen it through a connection that you had, and so we bonded over that, and that's something that goes back to 20 years. So see, you just never know how things happen, and it's so cool. But thanks again, guys. Hope to see you guys come back. Hopefully there'll be another show that we can
give me the secret to your hair, because I need more of that.
It's in the genes, man. It's in the genes. Here's to you guys again.
Guys.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Take care.
Thank you for having us.
Just say we all.
And thank you again, Mina and Paul, for hanging with us last week.
Absolutely. You guys are the best.
Good stuff, guys.
Yep. Take
All
care.
right, we'll see you next time. So thanks again for taking the time out. We really appreciate it, and going out of the way, guys. If you haven't met Gary and Dave at one of the conventions, their costumes, their uniforms are spot on, right? They are screen accurate. They've gone out of the way to have everything tailor made. Even the textile, the materials that are used are top quality. They're as close to the real thing as possible. Obviously, we have decades separating us from then to now, but I mean, when you see all the stuff that they have, it's so cool. And they helped us with their expertise when we did the Stranded Warrior, our fan film. So thank you guys, and so happy that you had a chance to come on. We are also now privileged to bring back. Yes, Lieutenant Boj, Jack Stauffer, is in the green room waiting, and we're really, really happy to have him. He's going to share some more of the lore, the stories of his career, because if you guys are not familiar, you need to be. It's not only Battlestar, but tonight we're going to try to focus a lot on his role with Richard Hatch and the Second Coming, and then we're gonna extend that.
We always extend that. Come on now.
Yeah, we are.
We can't have Jack without great stories.
Oh yeah. So we're privileged to have him. And remember, Jack was good enough to have to appease the fans that had never had the chance to get autographs, and we had worked that out, and it went so well. We're so proud of IFB and our connection with Jack. And so Jack is here, and thank you for joining us. Let's see if we can
Get
make
your
this happen.
can you get your camera up there, Jack? Or we need to
I'm here. Now, what have I not done right?
just turn the OFF switch into the ON position. Just kidding. It's the camera piece that you don't have running there.
Okay, so how do I run that?
It should be down at the bottom right.
Okay, I have a thing with my name on it. Do I?
Ooh, where is it?
So where's the camera?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Where's camera? Start video? No.
Yep,
Is
that's
that
it.
it?
That's
Okay.
it.
There it is. Okay.
I think. There you go.
There we
yeah,
are.
we got
All
it.
right.
Perfect.
All right.
Look at that.
It's
You
that,
You
Yeah,
can't
there
teach
he
a
is.
young dog new tricks.
I'm still trying to figure out how to send a text. So
Hey, it's working tonight, Jack. Whatever you're doing, the magic's there, man. You got it. Welcome back to IFB. Thanks for taking the time out.
Oh, thanks, guys. This makes my day. When you're sitting in your wheelchair staring out the window, this is something I look forward to. So thanks for having me back.
Cool.
But,
Absolutely. Anytime.
Yeah, and it was fun listening to the stuff on the costumes. It's amazing what the fans do now, and how fast everything. It's just fleeting to what everybody can do compared to what we came from. But
yeah.
but
I mean, think of it. It was when you were actually in the production on Battlestar Galactica and doing Boj. A lot of us were, obviously, all of us, including yourself, we were all a lot younger, but the idea of Hollywood, the idea of television and costumes and what we were watching on TV or in the movies, and to ever be able to come as close as we have, it just seemed like impossible. And now we're able to do it and do it well is a testimony to the fandom, Jack.
well, and technology and new generations.
Yep.
You said you wanted to hear about the second coming, so
Absolutely.
that's all right. You have to start at the beginning, which is obviously Richard, who's no longer with us. When we finished, and going back to the original series and laughingly, the funny stories of the things that went wrong, with trying to film that thing. You've heard. If there's something that you want to hear more of, we can get to that. But how did the second coming come about? And that was Richard. The rest of us, the series, as I told you, with my conversations with Glenn, saying, Jack, we can't wait to put you under contract for the second year. And then the second year never got there. And so everybody kind of went their separate ways. And it was, I think, at a point in time when all of us were kind of, I'm going to say, at the peak of our careers. I've been for the last nine months since talking to you, trying to reconstruct a timeline of my career. And in my old age, my memory is not as good as it had been. Thank God for the internet. I can look up stuff because I look up, well, I did that show in 1992. No, you did that show in 1988. Oh, all right. Yeah. But so we kind of went on, and I must admit that Richard and I traveled in different circles. Laughingly, when we started together on All My Children, Richard had to come to New York. And so Richard was this California surfer kid trying to fit into Pine Valley and the early days of All My Children. And he did not function well. And of course, I grew up back there and was a prep school kid and a college kid. So I it was the one thing I had over Richard. At least I could dress him. Because Richard lived in the same sleeveless T-shirt and old beat-up leather jacket ever since I knew him. And but when we finished the show, I went on to do other things. Right at the end of Galactica was the famous horse story from How the West Was Won. But Richard never forgot, and Richard always had the passion for what this show might look like going forward. And again, at that time, when a TV show went on the air, the industry was just starting to transition for the worse, and I truly mean that. If you got a TV show in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s stuff, and the show was picked up, you did 22 episodes in 1 year. And
oh yeah, amazing.
That's what it was. That started to stop at the end of the 70s. Producers and stuff, people just didn't want to commit to that. So my recollection was the original Battlestar had 13 episodes, which was significantly less. And in all honesty, that's not enough time to establish characters, backstories, places where you can go. You have to lay out the groundwork. And with 22 episodes, you can do that. Today, especially, if you haven't got an audience in 4 episodes, they yank you off the air. So because there's so much material out there. But at the end of the first year, Glenn had all sorts of ideas for how the show would progress forward. And a lot of that came from, Glenn's Mormon background and the Egyptian motif that was part of the original series. And Richard never forgot that. And so where the rest of us kind of went our separate ways, Richard just kind of stayed with it in his back of his mind. And he always wanted to keep going with Battlestar. And I think that was reflected in his books that he wrote, which he published himself. And then time went by. We all went our own way. And I got to move forward now to 1997, because I didn't see Richard as much, throughout the 80s as I did. I mean, we were all doing our own thing. But it was at the 20th reunion, which was actually the first Battlestar Galactica convention, the 20th anniversary of the show, which was the 98 convention that Richard and I sat down, and Richard started to tell me about what he wanted to do with the show, and he was passionate about this. And what Richard wanted to do was take the show out 20 years, have the original cast be the elder statesmen, and bring in an entire new cast of younger actors who would basically play the characters that we did 20 years earlier. I thought it was a great idea because, Richard had ideas of going just way beyond it. And we've talked about this before. One of the problems with the original series was it was way too much of the same Cylons running from the Cylons every week. And why the Pegasus came in was to add a new dimension to that. And that's why the Living Legend episodes are still the most popular episodes of all, because they brought in, the conflict within the fleet instead of just running from the Cylons every week. So Richard and I started to talk about this, and Richard wanted to do it, except there was one very large problem here, as he didn't have any rights to this. Universal owned the show. Glenn Larson had the rights. We had no rights. And Richard had talked to Glenn. Glenn was probably on the downside of his notoriety in the industry. And Universal was not interested at all. So he was kind of said, go away, just we don't care, because they had other shows now. You know, when Battlestar came out in '78, there weren't that many, well, space-oriented shows, with the exception of Star Trek and Star Wars. But since then, I mean, look at the shows that you had. You had, you know, things like Buck Rogers. You had all the Star Trek stuff and all the Star Wars stuff. So and Stargate and, you know, Firefly and all these various spin-offs. So there was a pretty good sized glut in the market at that point of space oriented sci-fi. So remember, Universal deemed the original show a failure, which is really kind of interesting, because within 6 months of the cancellation of the show, the Battlestar Galactica set and the Cylons were the main attraction on the Universal Studios tour, which I always thought was interesting. But Richard started to explain this to me, and then he said, "Do you want to do this with me?" And I said, "Well, what are you going to pay me?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Nothing."
Nope.
And I mean, absolutely. Now, this is a credit to Richard's just passion for this thing. The making of the Second Coming trailer, Richard put every dime he had into it until he ran out of money, and I lent him a few dollars at the end of it to finish it. But to do this, we really, I won't say we did it illegally, but we did it with no authority behind us whatsoever, except this idea. So how did you get people into it? I was the only one from the original cast who agreed to do this with him, because everybody else wanted to get on with their careers and get paid. So Dirk wasn't interested. Annie wasn't interested. I know Herb wasn't interested. John Colicos was interested, but he was in Canada. And I will say this one thing: he did give permission to Richard to use a clip from the original series in the trailer. And that one clip is in the trailer that we took around the country with us. But Richard went out and he started, you know, he wrote a script. He started to cast it, and he got non-union young actors, and he interviewed them, and he hired them. And then he hired the most incredible group of people to play smaller parts, to play ensemble, to play in group shots.
Wow.
An incredible group of very talented people. Do you know who he hired? He hired the fans.
Oh, that's amazing.
He did.
Go.
He hired the fans because the fans came fully equipped. Now, what does it take to film a trailer? Back in those days, I mean, there was no digital cameras or anything. I mean, Richard literally had, I mean, we had friends in the studio. We had on board with us both Bryan Singer and Tom DeSanto, and Bryan Singer was probably the best, you know, asset that we had. But Richard literally had to borrow camera equipment. I mean, when you're filming something, you have to have cameras, you have to have sets, you have to have lighting, you have to have sound, you have to have people to do all these things, and they cost money. And Richard had to pay all these people. We also had a little thing called wardrobe. Yep. I'm hearing
You're good.
echo.
You're good on our end.
Yeah, I'm getting an echo here. All right. Anyway, so I mean, Richard started doing this, and again, you know, with great ambition, but it's not like you had a call sheet every day like you do when you're filming a show that the studio's producing and you're hired for. You have the call sheet and you show up with your thing, and your episodes start on day one and they end on whatever day they end on. But Richard had to do this kind of when people were available. And, you know, these young actors that he hired, most of them had jobs outside, you know, whether they were waiters or bartenders or whatever, but they were unknown actors. They were very talented. I remember these young people very, very well. And they were really, really good. But, you know, the fans themselves that filled in brought the most important part of the entire trailer was they brought all their own costumes. and don't kid yourself, that was vitally important, because the rest of us, we had to have wardrobe, and we did. Richard had to spend money on wardrobe, and one of the big changes in the trailer that we wanted to do was we wanted to distinguish between the various ranks of the personnel. So we changed the color of the jackets. Now the wardrobe was exactly the same, but because now I was a full commander, and so my jacket was red, and Richard and I discussed what we wanted to do with Bojay, and actually I wrote it all out for him, what I wanted to do with it, and we agreed. And interestingly enough, all the stuff that we did with Bojay and all the stuff that we did filming with Bojay, very little of it ended up in the trailer, because a trailer, as we've all been to movie theaters and seen trailer, you're seeing the action shots. You're not seeing the character dialogue. You're not seeing the intimate moments. Yeah, you're not seeing that. You're seeing that. And it became very obvious, when I saw the trailer, I went, what happened to the 15 minutes of film that you and I shot? and it never ended up in the trailer. And I always understood why. And also too, as I have always ribbed Richard, no head is higher than the king. And my relationship with Richard going all the way back to 1970, as we've talked about on this show before, Richard was always, the love interest, the hero, the main focus, and I was always the best friend. It was something that I learned to accept very, very early on. And when we talked the last time, when Glenn hired me to do Bojay, the reason he hired me was he knew that I would not, because Bojay was a very alpha character, that there would be no problems on the set with me and Richard trying to vie for screen time or who was going to, be the toughest guy of all, because Richard and I worked very, very well together. It was just a dynamic that I accepted, and Richard, like I said, head was always slightly higher than everybody else's. And so to get back to this, we put this together, and now trying to start filming this was incredibly difficult, because we didn't have permits to shoot anywhere. We certainly did not have the rights to this thing at all, and this was all being done sort of under the table. So I know, I remember, Richard getting a Panaflex camera and getting, a cameraman, both of which cost money. And then, there was no digital. We had to have film. Film costs money. Yep. And we did get, somebody who knew somebody, I guess, at Universal to donate 1,000 feet of film or something like that. So we did have some film, but that all has to be developed and stuff. But we were very in short supply of what you took for granted about shooting stuff, filming stuff, especially when you're doing action sequences and you have explosions and stuff. So a lot of that, this was the very beginning of CGI, brand new. Yep. What we take for granted now was CGI. But I remember, I will now, go into the filming, and Richard directed it. So, I was busy, doing things at this point in my career in the late 90s. Remember, I'd gone mostly back to theater. And a lot of, when we were filming this thing, I was doing My Fair Lady. So I wasn't available a lot of time at night to shoot, which we did shoot a lot at night. But the plot and everything, I guess, to explain it better, was to take the show forward and add in, a lot of development, what would have happened 20 years later. down the line, and that's what Richard wanted to do. Now you've all seen the trailer, and
Yeah.
and
Actually, if you want, I could actually pull that trailer up and we can play it real quick.
oh yeah, well you see, I get one close up in it out of all
True.
all the stuff I was in it, and I did rag at Richard on it, but we shot it. We shot all the Viper sequences. We shot the action sequences. Richard did everything he wanted to do, and then he put it together. And he took it to Universal, and Universal had absolutely no interest in it whatsoever. They just told him to go away. Glenn had no interest in it because there really was nothing in it for Glenn. Now, I will say in all honesty that once the fans started writing in by the tens of thousands, Glenn became much more interested because Glenn retained a lot of the rights to this. So what Richard did, and again, I'm not going to go into the things of filming. I do remember setting up the dynamic of it. Richard literally became the Lorne Green part. Bojay, which we really wanted to figure out what to do. The Bojay became the head of R&D and was the head of the training of all the young pilots. And of course, Bojay, even though he was now older, always thought he could outfly all the younger pilots, which he could. It's that was the dynamic behind it. And I remember shooting with all these extras and the two young actors who I'm having the dialogue with, because the one thing you don't do is screw up my Vipers, they were don't mess with my Vipers, and don't bring them back damaged. And there was this wonderful scene where Richard and I are inspecting the new pilots, and he and I are both talking to them. And then I remember that sequence, and then I remember the sequence because Richard's son is one of the new warriors, the new pilots, and that was one of the main characters. Yes, Richard's Apollo's son is now what Richard was in the original show, and that's where the line comes from in the trailer. Your son is going to make a fine pilot. That's the line that made it into the trailer. But to put all the stuff that we shot into the trailer wasn't trailer material. Does that make sense? That it had to be the action sequences, and that's really what went into the trailer. I remember the music. Absolutely tremendous. He stole all the music from James Horner. It was the music from Crimson Tide. That was the music. Yeah, that was the music they used in the trailer. So when nobody was interested, Richard, being Richard, and said, we'll take it out on the convention circuit. Now, that's probably, the most important thing, and what a lot of young fans and a lot of fans today probably don't understand. This was back in the days before the convention world had condensed to just big, huge conventions. There were a lot of smaller conventions out there. There were a lot of fan-run conventions. There were a lot of just conventions that, might have had 800 or 900 people at them. But they were everywhere. And these were the ones that we went to. Today, you have, Comic Palooza, which you guys were just all at. I don't know how many people there, but what, 50,000 or something like that? That thing's huge. And Lorette and Sarah went. They wanted me to come. There was just no way I can fly in an airplane to Houston with one leg and, wheelchairs and stuff like that. Plus the fact I didn't really want to. It's not the way I want the fans to remember me. As an 80-year-old man sitting in a wheelchair. It's my ego. I don't want to go out with the fans that way. And my relationship with the fans was was too important to me. That, you know, if they wanted to get up and stand and, you know, point the pistols, the laser guns at each other, I wanted to be able to participate in that, and I just didn't want to be an old guy in a wheelchair. So it's why
you'll never be an old guy in a wheelchair to us.
Yeah, it's just, and also just the logistics of the traveling. But anyway, so Richard and I remember he was with Sophie Laporte, who was handling all his convention appearances and stuff. Then we hit the road, and we went to dozens of conventions together, and we would show the trailer, and Richard would tell the fans, you know, as he was showing us, that, look, we have no rights to this. Please do not, under any circumstances, film this. You get us in a lot of trouble if you do. And the fans loved it. And then Richard said, if you want to see this show come back, if you like our idea of taking this show 20 years forward and moving the plot out into the future, you need to write in. And it started, and started out with a few hundred fans, and then it became 1,000 fans, and then it became 10,000 fans. And then all of a sudden there was this overwhelming fan support pouring into Universal about, we want to see a new Battlestar Galactica. And all of a sudden Universal got interested.
Of course.
And here's where it got interesting. Now, all of this took time. And the one thing that happened that hurt us at the beginning was, and I think it was, we lost Bryan Singer, and because he got a major motion picture. And I think it was the original Spider-Man, but I'm not sure. But we lost Bryan Singer.
I think that Bryan Singer went to, I can't remember. I think
it was his first.
Yeah, it was Transformers, I think.
Maybe that was it. But it was his first big feature. And when we lost him, we really lost an asset that could push us through the studio. So now here comes, you know, the tragedy of the story, which was not new and, you know, not unexpected. And we've laughed about, you know, on the original series, you know, the difference between management and labor. You know, management was the Black Tower. They were the producers, the money people, and all of that. And then the labor was the talent. And those two were separate. And those two did not get along well at all. And I can tell you that when Universal decided we are going to bring back Battlestar Galactica, there was no way in hell they were going to let an actor be in charge.
Wow.
Yep. And so they handed the show to Ron Moore.
Oh,
and
wow.
Then instead of doing what all the fans wanted, Ron Moore remade the original in the manner that we make it. You all know the reimagined series. And that was in direct opposition to what the fans wanted. Why did it succeed? It succeeded because 20 plus years had gone by, and you had the whole generation had no idea what Battlestar Galactica was. So you had this whole new audience out there who accepted this show. And was the show good? Absolutely. You had good talent in it. I mean, you had Mary McDonald, you had Katie Sackhoff, and I got in my right, you had good writing, and you also had, you know, access to effects that we couldn't do in the original. So when they handed it to Ron Moore, that completely changed the dynamic, and it was very interesting when that news came out, and they hadn't started to film it yet, or maybe they had started to film it yet, but Richard and we were at a convention in Oklahoma City, and Katie Sackhoff was there. And they brought us up on the stage and introduced Katie Sackhoff as being one of the stars of the new Battlestar Galactica, and the fans booed her. They
come on.
Oh yeah. And Richard, bless his heart, Richard stepped forward and went, "Don't do that. Don't do that. This is not real. This is television." And she's an actress doing a job, and she's a good actress, and she's going to do a good job. And so there was a market for this. I'm trying to incorporate a lot of stuff that you take for granted so much. There was a market for this in the cable world, and now you have to go back to the original. When we did it, you had 3 channels. You only had had ABC, NBC, and CBS.
Everything else went off the air at midnight.
Right, and you got the national anthem. And
exactly.
But we had moved on to something called cable TV, and with cable TV, you got what started out as cable TV, and it's funny, since I talked to you guys last, I just kind of looked up some stuff. Like, I couldn't remember when cable TV started, and actually cable TV was a way to get television programming to people, so they didn't have to use aerials on the roof. You got better quality picture.
Tin foil and
yeah. I mean, it was a way. I mean, it was like, if you look at the beginning of the internet and the broadband, and what you could televise at the very beginning of internet, and all the stoppages that you got,
right.
as your TV tried to keep up. You couldn't broadcast enough material. The internet wouldn't handle it. And now, as the internet goes by, now they're doing IMAX on over the internet. But cable had just really started, and they needed material. And there was a station called the Sci-Fi Channel,
yep,
which was hanging on by a thread, showing old Flash Gordon, Flash Gordon, the stuff from the 50s, the original Day the Earth Stood Still, the Ant People, Godzilla, all the old stuff, and that's where they decided to air it, and it literally saved the Sci-Fi Channel.
Wow!
Because it did. It saved the Sci-Fi Channel, and it was the #1 show on the Sci-Fi Channel, and it was good. Now, I cannot tell you that I watched a lot of it. Simply, my tastes did not run in that direction.
Right.
I watched the shows that Richard was in when he played Tom Zarek, and I think Ron Moore did the one smart thing that Ron Moore did, was put Richard in it. Even at the small extent that he did, because without Richard, it would have never gotten to him. And interestingly enough, it made Ron Moore's career. And Ron Moore went on to do Outlander, which solidified him as a major player. Interestingly enough, I talked to Ron Moore, met with Ron Moore on 2 occasions.
Oh, really?
Yep, and asked him, I said, I hope you'll put me in the new series, and he promised me on both times that he absolutely would bring me into the new series. He said, not as a regular, but I will get you, a guest star part on the new series, because you were in the trailer and you did it with Richard, and you were part of all of this. And he never did.
Oh my gosh!
Yep.
What a disappointment.
And it's something that I always have, because he had the audacity to show up at the at Universal when we did the when Richard died, and we did the tribute to Richard down there, and Ron Moore got up and spoke, and I was the last one to speak. I didn't say anything, but I went up to Ron Moore, and he wouldn't give me the time of day.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah. So but he's a talented man.
Oh, definitely.
Do that. But going to these conventions with Richard was a hoot, because we would, God, we would just make each other laugh. I mean, a lot of people, couldn't josh Richard, because Richard had an ego, and but I could. Our relationship went back so far that we could really get after each other, and we did a lot of hijinks at these conventions that just tickled the fans to death. I mean, at one point we did probably half of the first act of Man of La Mancha, and,
Oh my gosh.
But that the conventions at those times, and I look at what conventions are like today. You're talking about going and having a panel, and there was no such thing as cosplay. There was a costume contest, and we saw a lot of costumes, and I remember there was a thing called anime which started.
Oh, yep. That's so big now.
Yeah, and this was all at the beginning of this. So at a lot of these small conventions, we would, it was easy to hang out with the fans because you weren't overloaded, and we got to know them all. And I remember Paul Rotter. I saw Paul's pictures from the latest Comic Palooza with Lorette and Sarah, and I have somewhere in an old scrapbook pictures of him and me from 20 years ago.
There you go, Paul.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go, Paul.
Yeah, and
the actors actually remembers you.
Oh yeah. Absolutely, because he was Commander Kane.
Yeah, that's
and so it was. But I remember all the fans, and I remember the costumes that they wore were really great. And without them in the trailer, with their costumes, that trailer could not have been made. They sat behind the consoles, on the bridge. They were. I mean, we had the 4 Cylons that we used. I can't remember his name. He died a couple of years ago.
I know who you're talking about. Crap.
Yeah, but I mean, he was in there in his own. He had his own Cylon costume.
Garrett,
and
yeah, go ahead.
All the Cylons, had their own costumes, which we had people to add to, but we had to have wardrobe made for that, and Richard spent every nickel he had on it, and he. I won't say he went broke, but yeah, he pretty much went broke. It's and
when's the last
everything.
time you actually watched the trailer?
Oh, I've seen it so many times I know it by heart.
Oh wow!
Yeah, because we showed it at every convention we went to, and I used to have to laugh because
Tim the Cylon. That's it.
Yes.
That's it.
Tim. How I developed the cabaret over, which we've talked about, which became a staple about what it started out as a way for me, to get my mouth open, without Richard talking, because we'd be up on the stage together, and I just sort of stand there, like a prop, and then see, I could josh him, and I would go, can I say something now? Then Richard would go, well, what are you going to say? So we could do that, and literally that's how the cabaret started, and it evolved over the years until at the very end it was an hour and a half long, and without the conventions where I developed that thing, I was always amazed at a science fiction convention how appreciative the fans were of me sitting up there singing shows from musicals that I had done and telling stories, which you both know, both funny stories and the heartbreakers and stuff.
Right.
And at the end, that show became almost an hour and a half.
But
and I
think,
I
Jack,
love doing
it's
it.
important that it was such a. Your stories are so in depth. It's fantastic. I mean, it's great to listen to those stories as well. So don't Don't sell yourself short on that.
Oh no, and they were, and the stories, the ones that were funny and the ones that broke my heart were all part of the industry, and it's the industry today is absolutely nothing like the industry that I grew up in and knew. Lorette and I talk, and Andy and I talk a lot about it, and we got laughing, and I'm starting to digress a little bit here now, but I remember auditions, and you would go into a room, and I always laugh. The first audition, you go into a room, and there were people there. There were people in the room, and the first audition.
Not a video? What do you mean?
No, that was before video, and the person in the room was always somebody who was just literally screening the first round. And I always laughed and said it was the producer's nephew or niece who'd been in the business for 2 weeks, and and the first words out of their mouth would always be, "Well, tell me what you've done." Now I know a lot of actors that would get pissed off at that and say, "I'm not going to tell you what I've done. You've been in the business for 2 weeks. I've been in the business for 20 years. Don't ask me that question."
Oh, wow.
I learned very, very quickly, do not do that. It was part of the process because, in the audition process and any role, whether it was commercial auditions or, theater auditions or television auditions, you have to go through a series of steps. And the first steps, things that Wimbledon is on now, it's like playing the first round at Wimbledon. You don't want the number one seed losing to a qualifier. And that first step was auditioning for the qualifier. And that person had no ability to hire you at all. And the only way you get a job in the industry is to get in front of the people who can hire you. And that person had no power there whatsoever. That person could not hire you. That person did have one huge power, and that was to prevent you from getting to the person who could hire you.
Oh, wow.
So I learned very quickly to treat those nephews and nieces like they were, Leo B. Mayer and Daniel Selznick and Francis Ford Coppola, because you needed to get past them to get to where you wanted to go. So that audition process, and I think I've told you the story. If I haven't, that's a great story of how I got the Doberman. Role.
I think we showed the. I love the Doberman.
Yeah,
that was fantastic.
Oh, but how I got that role was just ridiculous, and it was by being the last guy in the door, and so
I would like.
So when Ron to go back to the show, when Ron Moore took it over, he did a very good job. The new fans, they changed the sex of Starbuck, and they changed this and they changed that, but basically it was the same series over again. And but I can't, I would never deny its success. It was far more successful than the original, but it came along at the right time, in the right place where there was that network needed that show so desperately, that it kept going, and it went for 4 years, and all the more power to them. And we still hear the rumors of them making a Battlestar Galactica movie. I don't know. I don't see it. It's but that's just really the story of how the trailer got made.
I'd like to take Jack. I'd like to take his time. Go ahead, Pete. You got something?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to steal your thunder, Tipsy, but Jack, just to see if we can get some type of closure, so to speak, on the second coming. There's these rumors and people that speak in a low tone about even on Wikipedia, Jack, they talk about a mysterious 30-minute version of the work that you and Rich had done on the Second Coming. Do you have any inkling? Could that be
Does it
true that there
exist,
was a
or
30-minute
No,
version?
there was never a 30-minute, to the best of my knowledge, there was never a
wow?
30-minute version put together. I can tell you there was enough film shot to probably make a 30-minute version, but it was never completed because when we shot it all, just laughingly at the Bojay stuff that never started. There's probably 12 minutes of stuff with me and Richard and me with the cadets, me and the Viper and stuff that never got in. There was.
I don't recall ever seeing the Viper. I've seen a lot of the trailers and things like that, but I don't
Yeah.
remember seeing anything with you and the Viper.
Nope, it wasn't. It didn't end up in the trailer. It's there somewhere. That film, whether that film exists now, it might be in the bottom of a closet somewhere at his son's house or something. But again, it doesn't do you any good to put it together or show it anywhere because there are no rights available. You just get in a lot of trouble if you tried to show it.
But it would be so great to see you act.
No,
yeah.
I saw the scenes of us with them, and I liked them, and I liked the scenes of Richard and me, together because we worked well together, and it's very rare. And I'm one of those people. I've never seen film of me that I liked.
Really?
Yeah, which is, I just thought
you're your own worst critic.
Yeah, my worst critic, which is why I always liked theater better than I liked film, because film you only did it once, and I would look at it when it aired, and I went, oh geez, I remember we shot that out of sequence, and if I'd known what we hadn't shot yet, if we'd shot that first, I'd have played that scene differently, and so I was, which is why I've always loved theater more. But I remember nights, we'd be outside shooting and hoping nobody caught us. Yeah, literally, and then some of the interiors, the sets that they put together, and literally the fans helped put the sets together. Again, you could not have shot that trailer without the dozens and dozens of fans who showed up.
That's amazing.
In their own costumes and literally became grips, held the boom. Yeah, I mean, it was such a tribute, and Richard was so grateful to them, and I was not around throughout the whole completion of these things because there were so many times that things were shot that I was not there. I don't know how many days we actually shot, but I shot everything in about 3 days, and
that's a long time actually. But
yeah, but we did everything pretty much in one take. But all the explosions and stuff, and John Colicos, I remember when he came out with us on the convention circuit for a while. And there's the famous dinner where he always had this beautiful white suit on with a red scarf, and Richard reached across the table and spilled an entire glass of red wine right down the front.
Way. That sounds like a great story.
It was so typical of Richard, but he came with us a couple of times, but nobody else really did, and but I was amazed. I remember. We did Dragon Con twice,
Yep.
and you found out I always found out that I had much more fun at the smaller cons, because at the bigger cons there was so much of what was new that the fans were interested in that we were sort of relegated to the back room. But even at places like that, the fans that were interested found us. But I remember probably the time that the one con that I think that we went to that we really knew we had something was in Toronto when we went to Canada, and this was a whole new audience, and this was a pretty good sized con for at that time. I would say there were probably 5,000 people there, and they went crazy over the trailer. And this was a big audience. And I just remember coming back through the airport trying to cash in Canadian dollars for American dollars, and I went, "Gee, we did pretty well at this con." But that was the, that was, I think, when we really knew. And then, like I say, when the fans wrote in time after, and the show, I think the new show premiered in 2004. And
yep, it did.
Yep. So we started in 98, we shot it, and we hit the con circuit starting in 99. And, for 5 years, we went all over. I mean, we went to places where there were 200 people. We went to places where there was 1,000 people.
Yeah.
We did.
Love. Yeah,
that's
we part of the love. Yeah.
We did. I remember we did the 20th reunion, the 25th, the 30th, and then we stopped at the one in Seattle, which was such a disaster. Because it was run
that's
so
a whole new show right there.
Yeah, but still, even at that show, the fans that were there, we wanted them to have a great time, and I just remember going out of our way to have dinner with them, and you could. I mean, we had Paul will, I think, remember a dinner I think we had together in Houston where we would have dinner with the fans. We would go to Benihana's at these.
Yep, Benihana was a very big.
That was a big
con,
thing.
Yeah.
And, we would say go, and we'd have 20 or 30 fans that would come with us, and as you know, that was the whole point of going to these events was for the fans, as you've heard me, preach to the day I die. If it wasn't for the fans, none of us would ever have worked, and we'd have all been selling insurance for our lives. So, and that attitude has changed now, and the new generation of actors and how things are run these days. It's much more corporate. Yeah. And I think a lot less fun. I had much more fun at the smaller conventions than I did at the bigger ones. Yeah. But I think that's all I can tell you about the trailer. It was very disappointing, to all of us when Ron took over and did it, but we moved on. It's not like
Yeah,
we were going to go.
Stop, yeah,
we were going to go picket or anything. Yeah. And
Jack,
yes.
Did you guys? Did you and Richard ever bring up the topic as to what might be the goal? Was it more in line with the Second Coming is really TV, or could the Second Coming be a one-shot movie?
Yeah.
What were you thinking? It was
always to make it as a series going forward. It was never considered as a movie. Okay. Because Richard really wanted to explore a lot of the mythology that never got explained in the original. The Egyptian motifs. Okay. Again, if you go back, and again, I did not see enough of the second series. Wasn't because I boycotted it. It's just, I can't. It's just not my thing.
Yeah.
I gave up on Star Trek. When the original cast was gone. I watched some of the Picard ones, and I thought the stuff with the Borg was interesting, but it's not my my thing. Yeah, I much prefer, political intrigue, corporate hijinks, and especially government corruption and stuff like that.
Yep.
And anything the British do, because they do it better. and which is why you have all the stars of shows over here. When you look up, well, who is that actor? Well, so and so has been a British actor for 20 years, and they're over here doing the shows with American accents because they're better than we are. And but I won't get off on that subject. But
Jack, if you guys ever talk about who, if anybody, if you could have I don't know, did you guys approach other fellow actors outside of the BSG circles, or that was taboo, or was there anybody you wanted to try to get?
Well, yes and no. I would say there are a lot of people we wanted to get, but remember, we were doing this illegally.
Right.
And it's it was always that stigma hung over everything, that we did not have the rights to do this. And basically Richard went out on a limb because he couldn't get anybody interested in it to do it. And he pleaded, and he talked to Universal, but when Universal said no and they had the rights, there was nothing Richard could do except say, okay, I'll make
heartbreaking.
it. Yeah, I'll make it. I'll use my own money, and we'll take it out, and we'll see what the fans said. And the reason the new Battlestar got made was fans wrote in by the tens of thousands.
Yep.
And that's why. Which is why always be nice to the fans, so they'll write in.
Oh, that's right. It's the fans that fuel the fandom as well as the fuel.
That's right.
The fuels.
Yeah. And now look what the fans do. I mean, the Battlestar Galactica fan club, and people like Paul and Cherry O'Klima, and the guys that made the full-size Viper.
Yep.
And I'm amazed at all of these people who are still so in love with this show, and now are making their own films. Yeah. And this is something that when I was an active actor, didn't exist. You couldn't do that. I laugh. You say you can make Gone with the Wind now with your iPhone, and edit it.
Scary thought, but yeah, you're right.
You're right, and the people who are dedicated to this show are doing that. They're making their own movies. They're starring in them, and I think it's wonderful. It's
about. I think it's important that we recognize that you and the other actors are the ones that inspired the fans to do the things that they are doing. I mean, your talent in regards to the specific episodes, the specific storylines, that those things really make everybody else want to do more. They want to do things. You're an inspiration. I don't know if you realize that or not. You're fantastic because you've been around a while. You've been in plays. You've been in movies. You've been in soap operas. You've been in those kind of things. But you've inspired the fans to make the things that they do.
That was the thing. If I had to say one thing about and Richard too. I mean, today the conventions are all about
anime.
Stars making as much money as they can, and they have managers that go to the bank 3 times a day.
Totally agree.
They're making so much money. Richard and I especially me, because I knew the choices that I made when I decided I was going to become a performer, and I knew the perils, and I knew that I would have to give up. We've talked about this, all sense of tenure and security and all of that, and I wanted, to pass that encouragement on to every fan I met who said, "God, I wish I could do what you do." And then I would sit down with them, even if it was just the two. And Richard would do this too, absolutely, and encourage them, do it. find a way to do it. If this is in your blood and you need to do it, you need to find a way. Richard taught his class on acting, right? And I didn't teach a class on acting. I taught, a class on following your dream. And which is why, when I turned to directing at the end of my career was so satisfying to me, because this encouragement of the creative arts is something that's disappearing from this country. Agreed. And we will not get into politics. But I always, wanted to encourage any fan who came up to me and would say something like, "Do you like my costume?" Even if it was horrible, you say, "No, it's absolutely fantastic. You made that.
Exactly.
You made that.
Yeah.
You took the time to make that. Look at the creativity that you've done and do that. Good for you. I'm so proud of you for doing that." And I say that to all the fans that still exist that I met in my years on the convention circuit, and I remember them all, because laughingly, we saw the same fans at most of the conventions, and which is why I always laughed and said, anybody who wants a picture of me has it by now, or they're dead. But I remember them all, and we'd see them, and I always loved the fact that they would tell me what they were doing, and especially the costumes that they wore, which they spent a great amount of time on, and were fabulous. And the headwear, laughingly, somebody actually at the very end brought me the pistol that we had, which actually had a laser on it. So when he shot it, the laser beam went across the room. And I said, "Well, it's a good. Don't give it to Richard; he'll break it." And which he did. And he broke all of them. And but just to see this enthusiasm and to see people follow this and create, to me made every sense of encouragement worthwhile, because you have to be able to find something other than what we do for a living. Yes. I remember the sci-fi fans in the early days of the conventions. They were looked at as weirdos, geeks, nerds, whatever.
I agree. I identify that as that, but go ahead.
Yeah, not anymore.
Yeah.
Not anymore. I will laugh. There was one convention, Richard, I were at a hotel where there was a big wedding going on at the same time, and the entire wedding party ended up in the convention with us, and for some reason, and aren't you guys supposed to be dancing to your own band? No, we want to be over here with all you geeky people.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so it was, to me, that was the most I could give back was encouragement. And I still say that today. Don't ever let anybody say no.
That's the important part. Yeah.
Yeah. Find a way and surround yourself with people who, they don't have to be like you. They just have to be on the same path that you're on, towards the same goal that you're on, and find a way to get there, and stay away from the people who will denigrate you. And unfortunately, our country now, we are in a period where, the hatred and the denigration of people who don't agree with people in power, you are now attacked, and that's never the way this place should be. It's not.
It's
wrong.
Counterproductive.
It's
not in the spirit of art. Yeah. But Jack, it's always an honor and a pleasure to have you share your stories with us.
Fantastic, yeah.
We love you when you come on. We're fans.
We love you.
You're
fantastic.
It's just so cool that to be able to have someone of your caliber, your experience, just come and be as open as you are with us and with all the fans, right?
Yeah.
We're lucky enough that we've created out of that Battlestar Galactica, out of the fandom, Chris and I were able to create this show. We've been on for 5 seasons, and it's not because of Star Wars or Star Trek. There's others that do that better. It was BSG that made this happen, and we're very proud of that. And
the
we're
talent
happy to
behind
have
it.
you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
it's
Fantastic. Yeah.
Well, thank you, and I love telling the stories. I always say there was one big difference between Richard and me. Richard was the consummate actor, and I was the consummate performer, and that was the difference between us. I just like telling the stories, and there's still tons of them that I haven't told you guys.
But we have you
want you to
every
come
month.
back.
So
That's
that's the fantastic thing. We actually have, if you ask my younger self, would I be able to talk to somebody of your caliber, your talent, of Battlestar Galactica? I would have not have believed
never.
it. Yeah,
Never.
It would not have been a thing. We appreciate you
Yeah.
so much. I don't know if you know how much you've affected so many lives. I mean, I get the people, I get the acting, and you made the money and the things like that, but the talent you have shared with the fans,
going to the conventions,
they're going to
and
conventions,
and
all that stuff
sharing,
is so much.
It is. It means a lot.
It means so much to us. Yeah, I don't know if you realize it.
Well, I will, and as I say, time's probably getting short. You can throw me off here in a second.
I'd love to keep you on all night, to tell you the truth.
I do want to come back because I got more stories, especially theater.
Hey, we'll have you back, no problem.
Well, anytime that you guys want me, Chris, all he has to do is go, "What are you doing 2 weeks from Thursday?" And but I'll tell you this, and I think this sums up everything, and this goes into. The next time I'm on, remind me, Chris, make a note to tell you the death of a salesman.
Will do.
Which was, something that was very important and made me really look at myself, and was for the first time I realized that I was a good actor. But
Will do.
When I was directing at the professional level and at the community theater level, I had much more fun and much more satisfaction in directing at the community theater level, because community theater, exists for people who like to maybe have done what I did and made other choices in life, but they never lost that desire. Mm-hmm. And so community theater has sort of a reputation of being, oh God, Uncle John's in this production.
Tiny Bean Tarot is a community theater person, so
we have to go see this, and oh God, it's going to be awful. And that's not necessarily true. I will honestly tell you, some of the best productions I've ever seen are community theater productions. Some of the worst productions I've ever seen are community theater productions. But I've also walked out of several shows on Broadway that I paid a lot of money for a ticket for. But in directing, community theater, I loved these people so much. And I did up here in Monterey, I did most of the comedies. And because comedy is so much harder to do than drama. And people would come in and audition, and we'd hire people. And then at the very first table reading, I would give my speech and say how excited I am that you people are here, because you are now in the safest place you can be. You get to do what I do. And I know a lot of you think you aren't good enough to do this, and you're scared and you don't want to try anything. And I'm here to tell you that there is no wrong choice that you can make creatively, that it does not exist. So when you want to try something, you're a safe place, because the one word that will never come out of my mouth is no. I will never say no to you. because you have
That's amazing, Jack.
around, your workplace, people say no to you and you're not doing your job well, and you don't want to go to work and you're doing something that you don't really like. What you really would like to do is be here. And I go, well, you are here. And that's the great thing about community theater, is that you have this safe place to go. And I want you to know you're all going to be brilliant. And I swear to you, because I said, you're brilliant to start with. You just don't know it yet, right? And my job is to allow you to really understand that you're brilliant and believe that you are brilliant, right? And that was how I directed. Now, trust me, I had the entire show completely laid out. I know exactly what I wanted, and I knew exactly how to steer them to where I wanted them to go. But I always wanted them to think that they were part of what made the show good. I didn't want to tell people what to do. I wanted them to find it on their own. And then I wanted them to believe that they were really good. And I will tout my own horn just for a second here before I leave you, is that the shows that I directed here were reviewed as the best shows done on the peninsula. And it was simply because people were not afraid. And I would sit in the back of the theater, every night watching the show. One of the mantras I made was, this is not a show that where you tell your friends will come the third week when the show kind of settles in. You're going to be as good on opening night as this show's going to be, because you're not getting any notes after opening night. This show's ready to open. And then I would sit back in the theater and I would watch these people on the stage having the time of their life, and knowing it's, the show runs for 5 weeks, and knowing for the next 5 weeks, you're going to be at the happiest you've ever been. And that was the satisfaction that I got. That was the same attitude I brought to the fans. That's
the important part.
That was the important thing, and what I encourage the fans to do. So now, as you're making your own films, and you have the technology to do this, and you have the tools at hand to do this, I would say to anybody who's watching this, if you want to go out and make your own Battlestar short, go do it. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
Agree.
And if there's anybody that you've hired that is negative on the set, get rid of them.
Yep.
Because you don't want that.
That's the way.
But I will, as I would say to my actors, I said, the one thing I can tell you is, you're stuck in your job. The one thing you have to look forward to every day is that you leave your job at 5:30 and you get to go to rehearsal. And you know what? You're at rehearsal, or you're in performance here having the time of your life, and your boss is still going to be an asshole.
Definitely. I think that's something we need to work with. Not the boss is an asshole thing, but I think the next we need to work with is your advice to new directors, new actors, new things like that. I think next month we would love to expand on that if you're able to. But I want to say, thank you so much.
I would love to talk about that, because that's, it's the same thing. You have to prepare, you have to set the example. So in order to, to pass the information on, or the talent on, or the encouragement on, you also have to apply the same rules to yourself. Don't lie to the fans. Don't pretend to the fans. Tell them the truth.
Don't ignore the fans.
And encourage them. You get a lot further with encouragement than you do with denigration. Absolutely. And I've been in both places. I've had directors that say, "What the fuck are you doing?" And it doesn't allow for good performances when you're afraid, if you open your mouth, that somebody's going to say you're lousy.
Yeah, exactly. Or put you down and not advance you towards a goal. I think you're on the right track there, Jack. I think
absolutely
it's fantastic that it's if ask my past self if I would have been here with Jack Stauffer,
Well,
But
as
it's amazing.
as-
Thank you so much.
as I leave you, I still can't believe it was that long ago. My youngest son just turned 41 the other day, and I go, "You can't be 41. I'm 41." And
Right.
and I never thought I'm coming up on 80, and I'm playing with house money, and but I can tell you, I miss it. I miss it with all my heart.
We miss you.
Um,
I think it's something that you have the ability to share with us. I mean, the information that you share on this show, the I guess the what am I looking for? Advantage, the excitement,
Yes.
yes. You
the energy
create that.
and the
Yeah.
wisdom that comes with your experiences and the fact that you're approachable and
Yeah,
that you
exactly.
love the
I
fans,
mean,
it all
who would have
comes
thought?
through.
Like once again, like I said, who would have thought I would have been approachable to
Never.
Bojay?
Yeah.
I mean, those
It
things
was
to you may be like, oh, that's not nothing, but to
Yeah,
us,
nah.
that is something.
Nah.
That is
no,
that is amazing.
Listen, it is my pleasure. And like I say, if you guys are stuck, once a month, if
Stuck,
you want me
okay.
on there,
Oh, we want you on.
I
At
will,
least
I will
monthly. Yeah.
come on and like I say, if I could do it all over again, somebody said if you could go back in time, I'd go back to day one on all my children and just start it all over. Start it over again. It was
Thank you, Jack.
my happiest time. Well, guys, have a great 4th
Yep.
of July.
Yep, exactly.
Two-
Happy
250
4th of July.
years of America, and I think I've been around for way too many of them. So I will let you go for now.
Yep.
And
Enjoy
just,
dinner, and thank you so much. I mean,
Yep.
See you
we
on the
look
next
forward to
one,
having
then.
you on next time. And once again, I want you to remember that you mean so much to the fandom. You mean so much to the people that are watching the show. I don't know if you realize it, but you're fantastic.
Well,
Thank you for what you do.
Well,
And,
thank you.
You are
And-
what fuels us.
Well, and know the feeling is absolutely mutual. I am a fan of the fans. That's a good parting
Awesome,
thought.
awesome word. Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
guys.
Here's
I
to
will
you,
see you-
Jack.
see you in a month.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Fans Fuel the Fleet, guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting. We had Tiny Bean on. We had Dave. We
So
had
much
Gary on.
tonight,
Thank you so much for taking the time out. Of course, we just ended
Yep.
with Jack Stauffer, Lieutenant Bojay from the original Battlestar Galactica. Thanks to all of you that are watching and sharing with us live. Thanks to all of you guys later on that are going to watch this in rerun. We hit in the thousands. So thanks, guys. It is.
I think it's
humbling.
important that we realize that it is the fans that fuel the fleet. Jack is an amazing individual. It's fantastic
bring
that
up-
he talks to us. Go ahead.
Can you bring up Gary so we can do a final toast?
Yeah, sure. Okay, we can do that. Hang on.
Yeah.
Oh, there's that. There's that. There is that. So we can do a final
There we
toast. Once again, thank you for everything you do. Fans are amazing. If you haven't had a chance, look up Facebook. Look up Second Coming. Watch that video.
It's cool.
It is very cool.
We should put
there's
up a
some-
link. We'll put it up on IFB for
Yeah, we
everybody
will.
so you guys can watch
but
it.
it's important that we understand that that's we're a family. We're a group that puts us together. We're a group that I don't want to say worship. It's really the wrong word, but we follow the actual show, and we appreciate your time. We appreciate your excitement in our fandom, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Once again, we're here every week. Facebook, YouTube. We actually think we still do Twitch, but hey,
I don't think so.
I don't-
They take them down, so I think we don't. But
I think it is. But thank you for coming, because it is important that we realize that the fans really do fuel the fleet. And thank you for being here. We look forward to next week when we roll back into transmission
guys.
distance.
Absolutely.
So, here's to you. Take care. And
Thanks,
thank
Gary,
you, Jack.
Dave.
You're amazing once again.
Stay well, everybody.